Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And welcome to the Back of the Range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 227. My guest on this episode is Andrew Kozan. Most recently, the Auburn Alum secured his Korn Ferry Tour card for 2022 in his first appearance as a professional. Now, as many of you know, one of the biggest challenges for new professionals is finding a place to play. Normally, the first years are spent on mini tours, chasing Monday qualifiers, and participating in state opens. Andrew successfully navigated first stage, second stage, and then finals in Savannah, Georgia, with weather conditions that would have been a challenge for even the most seasoned professionals. We spoke about his journey that started right here in South Florida, their early days of junior golf at the Florida State Golf Association, and we also talked about two of the more notable experiences in his amateur career: playing a PGA Tour event at the age of 16 and qualifying for the 2021 U.S. Open in his last start as an amateur. Don't forget, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Every episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. Lots of new episodes coming out between now and the end of the year. So let's get this started. Andrew, welcome to the Back of the Range. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
I have to apologize. This is a podcast that's focused on the amateur game and collegiate players, and I had every intention to have you on this podcast when you're an amateur, but as you and I both know, your schedule of travel this summer and my schedule of travel this summer, you went ahead and turned pro before I got to you. So that's my fault. That's bad staff work, but I'm assuming now that you're a professional, this means that this is going to be an ultra polished episode with your vast experience dealing with the media, right?
Absolutely. That's what I'm planning on.
Okay. All right. So this is just going to be so clean. No, we're going to bounce around. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Talk to me a little bit about, first of all, congrats on getting through Korn Ferry Tour Q-School finals. You got a job next year. That's got to be pretty exciting.
I do. Yeah.
That's got to be pretty exciting, right?
Yeah. My business degree is getting put to work now.
Everyone at Auburn is very happy to hear that. But yeah, I mean, you don't have the frame of reference that, other professionals with maybe a little more scar tissue on their resumes have. But I'm guessing right about now, you're saying to yourself, you got to be just waking up every morning, just breathing a lot easier, knowing that I don't have to try and piecemeal together some sort of a schedule with Monday qualifiers and state opens and mini tours. I mean, you have something lined up for 2022. I know it's been a couple weeks since you got through the qualifying. What have those 2 weeks been like? Have just tried to decompress what you just did?
Yeah, definitely. I know Q School is just the main goal, especially turning pro. So I turned pro right before Q School. So Q School was my first event as a pro. So it was good to kind of get off to the races in pro golf in that sense. But made the decision to. It was tough when I finished college. So it's. You grew up your whole life. Okay, I want to be a pro golfer. And then through my coaches and whatnot, we made the decision to kind of hold off from turning pro until Q School. So it was super tough in that sense, but it definitely was worth waiting.
Well, and the other thing, which we'll get into, I mean, you have your career at Auburn, you graduate from Auburn, but it wasn't like a typical situation where, okay, I played my 4 years, I have no other eligibility, it's time to turn pro. When they threw in COVID, that complicates things a lot too. Some players are like, oh, sweet, I got another year, I get to go back to school. But some people actually have to make that decision. Like, all right, am I ready? Is it time to go for this? So that actually, I'm guessing, complicated things even more.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I put a little thought into going back for my fifth year, but I mean, I had a decent year my senior year, so for me, it was kind of a no-brainer, kind of just get out on my own. I feel like, I was going to get my degree in 4 years, so that would have been another issue if I still had to do school after college or after my eligibility was gone, then that would have probably played some sort of factor in to maybe staying for next year or not. But the fact that I was going to get that done it a lot easier to kind of move on to the next step. I grew up, I always wanted to be a pro golfer, do this for a living, and now this is the first time my whole life where I've pretty much only had golf. You grow up, you at school, so it's now I can put my full focus every day specifically to this, which is what it's what all these golfers look up to and look forward to, is getting out of school and doing it as a full-time job. So I was super excited. But yeah, as I said, I put a little thought into staying for a fifth year, but when I thought about it, it was for my personality. I kind of keep to myself. Not a huge fan of team sports growing up. So it was tough for college trying to embrace the team aspect of it, but then to have the opportunity to kind of get back on my own was a no-brainer.
What's it been like lately? Just, like you said, you don't have school, you don't have studies. It's just, okay, this is the one thing I have. This is my job. I play golf. But like right now, you're just kind of waiting for the Korn Ferry Tour season to start up. Is it a little bit odd having, I guess, that much free time?
It is. The tough part is almost forcing yourself to take time off.
Right.
So
like you can't go hit balls 8 hours a day and grind. What's waiting for you next year, where you need to kind of put some, leave some gas in the tank right now. But it's got to be odd to go like, okay, I don't have a final, I don't have this, I'm just hanging right now.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun because you get the more freedom. So you're able to, as you said, I was out on the boat today, just hanging out. So I'm taking the next week and a half off. Was kind of grinding after Q school. I still had to play a bunch of golf. Ended up playing the RSM Monday qualifier last week. Didn't make it, but still, you're still in that constant grind. So that's what me and my coach Jeff Leishman have been talking about, is just learning to adapt and learning to make yourself have that forced downtime where it's in college. You're so used to whenever you're having free time to go practice. Okay, I have a couple hours afternoon free. I got to go to the course because I got class tomorrow,
Right.
or in some sort of that. So it's tough to have all the free time and not go practice. So it's having the time to force yourself to take a week or two off at a time. Growing up, I was never really that type of kid. I always felt like a day off was a day that someone else was working harder than you.
Yeah, exactly. It's.
But now I've been learning that off time is just as important as time to focus and time to grind and time to work on the game. So it's a big change, but we're used to it now.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go as far as to compare the life of a golf podcaster to the life of a professional golfer, but there are some days that I don't get a whole lot accomplished. I know people listening are like, oh my gosh, what how is he just slacking off? But yeah, there's days where you're just like, it's okay to kind of veg out. And apparently, I'm not sure if you've gotten into this, but do you watch anything with F1, the show on Netflix? I can't remember the title of it, but apparently.
Oh yeah, Drive to Survive.
There you go.
I'm a big Formula One fan.
Okay, all right. So then I have to. So let me ask you. Let's get off the golf topic for a little bit. Everyone, just kind of be patient with Andrew and I here, because I need to ask you a serious question. I haven't watched any of it, and I haven't watched the Netflix series. I know very little about F1. Should I just stay away? Because if I do get into it, it'll just like take over part of my life. Should I just stay away from it, or do you think it's worth getting into a little bit?
No, you got to get into it a little bit. Okay. I thought with Drive to Survive, they did a good job at trying to get people attracted to Formula One without trying to dive them in too much.
Okay.
And especially with the season's diving down now, so they're off next weekend, and then they have a race the final 2 weeks, and then they're done for a few months. So the season's almost over anyway. So it's a good time to kind of get into it, learn a little bit. So you have the last 2 races, and then you can kind of get out of it a little bit.
Okay, because yeah, I'm hearing from people that if you watch like 2 episodes, then you're hooked, and then that's pretty much what you're going to be watching and binge watching it. So I'm a little hesitant to get into it. So if there was a series like that for some of the guys that you played collegiate and amateur golf with, yeah, as we talked about, you just graduated from Auburn, but everyone in amateur golf is everyone knows everyone. So I'm just curious, off the top of your head, give me 3 guys that the Netflix film crew that did Drive to
Drive to Survive.
Drive to Survive. Give me if we send off that film crew to follow 3 guys in the amateur circuit, give me 3 guys that they have to follow.
Oh, that's a tough question.
Well, just give me any 3. It doesn't need to be the best 3, but I'm sure you can pick 3. They're like, oh yeah, that's going to get some ratings.
Well, I mean, Carl Phillips, maybe he just got to college, but he always had a big following.
There you go.
Coming up from junior golf. So he's got a bunch of followers out there. So that'd be a good way to get it out there. Maybe Davis Thompson. He was a phenomenal college player. Did a lot of good pro golf. And let's go with John Pack. John's got a great personality, a good friend of mine. But he was also one of the best players in college golf the last couple of years.
Those are 3 good ones.
So, yeah.
Those are 3 good ones. So we don't want to get too far down the line without talking about where you got your start. And actually, it's always good to talk to you are a native Floridian, aren't you?
I am born and raised in Palm Beach.
Man, I'm born and raised right down the street in Broward, and due to some really interesting staff work, we are doing this episode over the phone, and apparently we live about 15 minutes away from each other. So that's
if that.
That's great work on my part. But you grow up. I mean, growing up in South Florida, I mean, a golf club is going to find your hands at some point. When talk to me how you got into the game, and I talking about the club that you grew up playing at.
Yeah, so I was just a typical boy growing up. Tried to play pretty much as many sports as I could. Started playing golf when I was about 5. Played consistently between golf and baseball till I was about maybe 11-ish, give or take. And it was funny. I was actually better at the time at baseball than I was at golf when I quit baseball. But, I was just sitting there. It was like, I remember we'd have a golf tournament down south, and then we had to drive 2 hours to a baseball game that afternoon. And it was just constantly going back and forth. And I was just sitting there, and I said, okay, well, I guess in my mind, I'd rather put all my time and effort toward one sport and try and perfect that than keeping my time split between both.
Sure.
And at the time, there were so many kids my age that were just playing. They were playing baseball, they were playing golf, they were playing soccer, they were doing all these sports. So I was one of pretty much the only kids that was only really playing one sport. And I felt like in my sense, I had a big advantage that way because I'm working double time. I'm working double on one sport while you guys got your time split up. So I guess that was a pretty big decision in my career back then. But yeah, I mean, love baseball a lot, but I was always a pretty independent person. Didn't like the whole aspect of team sports very much. I felt like there was nothing worse in baseball than you having a good game personally and then your team loses, or you have a bad game and the team wins. I felt like those were just really awkward feelings. I never did too well at embracing the whole team environment. So that was a big stepping stone for me to get into college, to fully embrace that and really enjoy that the way I did.
So what you're kind of saying is you're a team guy, but you just want to have full control over the outcome of your success. So you don't want it depending on anyone else.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like I really thrive on that additional pressure. Like, okay, we won. Okay. That's because I did really well and I won pretty much.
Right.
Or you get the scenarios where we lose and it's like, okay, well, I lost that. Like, there's no one I can blame. There's no blame game. Like, it was my fault. I lost. There's no one to blame but yourself.
Now, you do understand that the future Ryder Cup and President's Cup team captains are going to be listening to this right now, and you're not. I mean, this is not going to be good for you if you're in need of a pick. And like,
hey, I embraced the team. I embraced the team environment really good at Auburn.
I know, man. I know. I gotta, growing up in South Florida, I think you got started a lot younger than I did in playing amateur golf down here. But you played, Florida Junior Tour. I know I looked it up actually on the Florida State Golf Association website. I mean, just playing tons of events between the ages of like 12 and 15. And I'm looking at all these courses that they were like the little, 2-dayers at, 13, like 13 to 15 year age. And I mean, gosh, for people that live down here that kind of know the drill of all these courses, Vieira East and Santa Lucia. I mean, these are all like the heavy hitters of golf courses in Florida, and Eagle Creek, Bear Lakes, of course, in West Palm Beach. there's junior golf programs all over the country. There's, state golf associations, obviously, all over the country. But Florida Junior Tour, when you look back at what that set you up to do and that kind of environment, I'm guessing that had to be just a massive, precursor to the success that you're finding now.
Yeah, absolutely. The Florida Junior Tour is such a phenomenal tour. They do such a good job with that. So I grew up playing like Palm Beach County events, South Florida PGA, and I remember FJT. You couldn't play until you were 13. They were pretty strict about that at the time. So you're growing up and like, okay, like, oh, I want to play an FJT so bad. I want to play an FJT so bad, and then to finally get your 13th birthday, you're like, you can't wait to be able to register for one of them. It was the funniest thing. And then so you start playing those, and I felt like it really helped you compete. It was a lot of 2-day events for the most part, but they had so many of them, it felt like every weekend we were traveling somewhere. So you get really used to playing tournament after tournament after tournament. And then you start playing well, and you're always, not always, but you get more comfortable with those pressure situations coming down the stretch because you're having them so often. So you're always being able to compete and always trying to win, and then kind of getting used to the whole aspect of playing more often instead of playing a tournament. Oh, I got a tournament now. Okay, now I got 3 more weeks. All right, now I got another month after that. So it was good to kind of get you into the environment and kind of get you on a roll of playing a lot. And then moving between the FJT and the AJGA, because obviously everyone knows AJGA is just the top tier junior golf program for the whole U.S.
Yeah.
So I felt like FJT did just such a phenomenal job of getting you ready for the AJGA tour, I would say, because it's always a big stepping stone. You go from one tour, then you move up, you go to the next tour, and it takes you a little time to get used to it. And then you get used to it, then you play well, you go to the next tour, takes you a little time, then you get used to it, and you start playing well. And I felt like the jump between FJT and AJGA was very minimal.
Interesting. Yeah, you're 100% right. I know a lot of juniors, and they kind of want to play that AJGA so they can kind of get the AJGA bag tag on their bag. And I'm sure you had the same thing. You're like, you just want to be, that means you kind of made it at that age, that level. That shows that you're a stick. And
absolutely,
yeah. Now, I'm sure you'll get this reference with Mighty Ducks, but Gordon Bombay, Emilio Estevez, that movie where he was like the king of peewees. And obviously there were times during junior golf that you were the king because you were winning the tour championship and you were winning different events. But I'm thinking with such a talent-rich environment in FJT and also Palm Beach County, do you remember who was just the beast in junior golf when you were there that always kind of had your number?
I remember we were younger. I would say Alberto Martinez. He plays at FSU now, but I remember felt like every tournament, like he kind of came out of nowhere, like no one really knew who he was. And then all of a sudden it felt like overnight, like no one can beat this guy. And it felt like it was like that for a couple of years almost. But I felt like with FJTs, I mean, there was just so many phenomenal players. You get on those smaller tours and it felt like it was the same person winning over and over and over. And then you get on the FJTs and there's a good amount of people that have the ability or the chance to win every week.
Yeah.
So it made it a lot tougher in that sense.
And you had, I think Mancino, who played at Auburn, he was right there with you.
Yeah, Mancino got on that tour a couple years later too. Yeah, he was another one.
Crazy. So crazy, the talent. Like, I remember when I was playing stuff at Palm Beach County, there was Robbie White and Jude Estachio and Chapel Brown. Like all 3 of them went to the same high school, and then all 3 went to Florida. And I'm like 30 years old trying to play it. I'm like, what? Why am I doing this? There's no way.
Yeah, good luck.
Exactly. I'm like, why am I even here? Why don't I just give these guys some money? They can go spend it on whatever they want because I have no chance to win anything. Like, why am I here?
Yeah.
Great success in junior golf, but I have to ask, obviously you played in this year's U.S. Open and, get through the sectional qualifier at Bears Club. And that's really, it's your first major and you're obviously it's a dream as an amateur at that time. You're around, the best in the world and the bright lights of a USGA event and a lot of media coverage. But this was not your first dance. What do you remember about being a 16-year-old playing at a PGA Tour event?
Oh, that was phenomenal. That was
I'm
unreal. That was
looking,
such a cool experience.
when I'm looking at that, I'm like, I have to ask you about that, because this is like Jordan Spieth, Byron Nelson stuff. This is like,
Oh yeah.
and this is really, and I think it may have slipped through the radar just because it's maybe one of the lesser known PGA Tour events, but you play in the 2015 Puerto Rico Open after winning the AJGA Puerto Rico Junior Open. So you get this exemption, and there you are. And, you know, I mean, I'll let you just go ahead. I mean, how do you even explain that? And I'll ask you a follow-up after what you say about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was just the AJGA did a really good job with that event. We were fortunate enough to have the sponsor invitation for the winner of that event. So that was always a big one. So that was one of my first big AJGAs. I remember they have the whole star system with the AJGA.
Yeah.
And that one, I remember you had to be fully exempt to get in. And that was like the first event I ever played that was that big.
Oh, wow.
So I go down there, and, I want to win, but at that stage it was like, okay, well, this is also my first big event. So my old coach, Ross Cash, did a good job at like, hey, there's 80 or 100 guys in the field. No matter what, someone's going to get that. You just got to be one. Like, one person's going to get it no matter what happens, one person's going to end up getting that. So we did a great job of kind of getting myself in the mindset of just trying to stay in the moment, stay present, knowing that you belong. And it was a fun week in the AJGA, and we were fortunate enough to I remember I made a big putt I made like a 15, 18 footer on the last hole. I thought it was to win. In my head, I thought if I missed it, I was going into a playoff, and then I had to make it to win. And I made it, and was super excited, and then found out I won by like 2 or 3 or something like that.
Okay.
But then we get down to the event, and it was just awesome. It was a blast. I mean, it was as a 16-year-old, it's a dream come true. You're like, okay, well, I can definitely get used to this. Why am I going to school?
Well, there you go. I mean, you see stuff like that at that age, and you miss the cut, but actually I think it was 73, 78. So I mean, really a nice opening.
Yeah,
start.
I was playing well too. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't play. I think I had a couple hole stretch in the middle of the second round that kind of took me out of it, but it was just an awesome experience. When you get an experience like that, it really increases your motivation. So once you get home from that event, everything changes. Like, you're practicing differently, you're taking it more seriously, your mindset changes. You get into the next tournament, and you're like, okay, well, I just played a PGA Tour event last week. Now I'm only playing FJT or an HAJ. Okay, this is nothing now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it increases your mindset and your perspective on everything. So I thought it was. I mean, it was an unreal week though.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a lot of amateurs that get exemptions into PGA Tour events, whether it's like most recently Ludwig Aberg, by winning the Jones Cup, got played in this year's this past RSM that just took place, and obviously I think the Houston Open has that, and there's a lot of PGA Tour events that there is an amateur that will be in that field by winning a collegiate event or an amateur event, and truthfully, for the most part, they'll miss the cut, and people might think, well, what's this amateur doing here? He doesn't have a chance, but it takes a couple years down the line to realize how important that opportunity is. Sure, it may not pay dividends in that one specific tournament, but just like you said, it sounds to me like your perspective on your golf and your career and everything around it completely changed in 1 week.
Yeah, and I feel like going through all these tournaments, you always have a couple of the year that really change your mindset. Like, if you go to a U.S. Amateur, obviously U.S. Open, but those big Western Amateur stuff like that, when you get home, even if you don't play well, like, your mindset is going to be differently. I can promise you, if you play in a PGA Tour event, even if you shoot a bunch and miss the cut by a bunch, when you get home the next week, you're going to be working out more. You're going to be taking that more seriously. You're going to be eating better because you want to take it more seriously. You're going to be more focused during practice. That's where people they miss the cut and they play bad and they're all down on themselves, instead of just embracing the fact that, okay, wow, I just played in a tour event, or I just played in this big amateur event. Like, okay, I can do this. I'm good enough for this. Let me put more focus and more motivation into certain areas and work on that, so I can keep coming back to these positions and keep putting myself in these scenarios.
I love the fact that your coach at the time communicated to you for the AJJ junior tournament that you wanted to get into this PGA Tour event. I love the fact that, and especially like you said, it was your first kind of star tournament that you got into. I love the fact that he was like, look, don't just go there just to kind of be a tourist and show up and say you got to play in it. He communicated that, hey, someone has to win this, and it might as well be you. That's such a great lesson for anyone to take away when you get out over your skis a little bit, whether it's AJGA, USAM, your first, invitation, whatever you want to call it. It's such an important thing to keep in mind that there's a reason you're there, and don't just go there just showing up just to say, oh, well, I got to play in it.
Yeah, exactly. And then I remember he ended up coming back down with me a couple months later for the event. And we went into the PGA Tour event, the same mindset we had with the junior event, saying like, okay, well, someone's got to win it. Why not us? Mm-hmm. And obviously, it's if you're an older guy looking down at a 16-year-old who says that, you're thinking, okay, what the hell is this guy thinking? 16-year-old, he's obviously not going to win the tournament. Right. Blah blah blah. But in the moment, it really focuses your mind. It gets you ready. It gets you in the right mindset. If I went to that event thinking, oh well, this is just a cool experience, I just want to enjoy and have fun. Get
some free stuff from Titleist.
Yeah, exactly. If you go into that, then you're never going to play well. But if you have the right mindset and still go there to win and compete, then you're always going to play better, I think.
Well, I'm glad we delved into that also to bring up some good memories. I'm sure there are guys that played in that tournament that you're going to be seeing down the line, and I'm sure that's going to rekindle some memories. I'm sure there's going to be a 40-year-old guy on the PGA Tour that played in that event that's going to look at you and say, man, I remember this snot-nosed kid from Puerto Rico. Look where he is.
Yeah, I remember I played with Roger Sloan and Ryan Armour. So I think Ryan lives in this area now. So I'll see him every so often at something down the road. But
that's awesome.
I don't know if he'll even remember me. He'll just remember as some twerp he was paired with at the Puerto Rico Open.
He got the short end of the straw that week. He's like, yeah, listen, Armour, I need you to take this kid. Don't let him wander in the ocean. Just
pretty much.
Bring him back in 4.5 hours. Okay, his mom's waiting for him.
Exactly.
Oh man. You go play your collegiate golf at Auburn. We talked about that, and I'm guessing with COVID that it must feel that your college experience just absolutely raced by. What are you going to miss the most about college golf?
I've talked to a lot of people about this, and it's the small stuff that you're going to miss most. It's like not even the golf related aspect of it. It's the whole fact that you get to travel with the team every week. You're always eating dinner with the team. You're always with the team bonding. It's almost like a small frat, you know what I mean? It's like you're always with them no matter what. It's those small experiences that I think you're going to miss most in the end.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you another thing about amateur golf, because a lot of people that listen to the podcast, either they're juniors or they're amateurs playing in college, and unfortunately now you'll understand exactly where I'm going with this. With World Amateur Golf Rankings, that's something that every elite amateur has to kind of keep an eye on. And unfortunately, I think the county and the state events really get hurt by it, because if you're trying to boost your ranking in WAGR, you really need to play as many elite tournaments, and you kind of get penalized by playing county and state stuff. Now, you obviously played Palm Beach County events, and I think you played the County M in 2020. I know that you won a state match play at FSGA, but it's like a balancing act. Even I talked to Michael Thorbornson. He played the Mass Am and won it, but he knew that it probably wasn't very helpful for his WAGR. How did you look at that when you were an amateur? Were you concerned about that, or were you more focused on, look, if I want to play, I'm going to go play? I mean, how did you look at it, and maybe what advice do you have for guys that are coming up that are, I guess, trying to navigate the labyrinth of a ranking?
Yeah, it was so you got different timelines from that aspect of it. So you're playing junior golf, and then once you start playing well in those big invitationals and stuff, then you get the WAGR. But then in junior golf, the main ranking is like the Polo, the Golf Week, the Junior Golf Scoreboard. Those are the main rankings. I mean, you're in junior golf, you're not worried about the WAGR at all.
Yeah.
Or that's how I was, I thought. And that's how most people when I played with junior golf were. So then you get to college, and now you start focusing on WAGR more often, but you still also have the individual, like the Golf Stat Golf Week individual rankings in college. So it was always tough because I think when I played that Florida match play tournament, we were doing the math after, and I had to get second just to stay where I was.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think they get a bad rap from that is because, but it's like you can go play a really high ranked event and not play well and kind of stay where you are, or you can play a super small event and go play really well and win the thing and really not move too much either.
Yeah, and also a lot of the players, obviously, at these. I mean, gosh, you remember what it's like Palm Beach County. We just talked about it, Palm Beach County and FSGA stuff. I mean, they're stone cold killers there. I mean,
they got some phenomenal players down here.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know. That's a conversation for a different day with someone that understands and better than I do the whole Wagger situation, how to change it moving forward. Because I think the people that get hurt are the state golf associations and.
Because I kind of embraced it because it's when you think about it from when you're in college, you're already in college. Wagger doesn't matter. I mean, obviously it helps to get into other tournaments,
yeah.
But realistically, it only helps if you're top 50 because then you go straight into USAM.
Right.
And then usually if you're top 10, 15, maybe 20, you'll get a couple of exemptions out of college. So besides that, it doesn't really matter. So my thought was I'd rather go play more, even if it's local. Just go out there and compete. That's why we play golf. Whether it's a small event or a big event, all you want to do is have a chance to win going into the back nine. So just having the chance to do that and being used to and comfortable in that position, I thought was way more important in the long run than any Wagger points, I thought.
I wish more people had that mindset because I know that there's a lot of players that do not play in tournaments because it would adversely affect their Wagger, where in the grand scheme of things, you should play as much as you can or as much as your schedule can dictate and how it will help your game because at the end of the day, you should be judged on what you're doing on the golf course. I don't care who you're playing with. You still got to get the ball in the hole.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I agree with you. I think that's an issue we have today. And I think that's what a lot of people have the mindset of is, I don't want to play in that because it might hurt my ranking.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, well, the ranking only gets you so far. You still got to go compete. So I felt in the short term, my ranking might take a hit, but in the long term, I'm competing more. I'm getting myself more comfortable in those bigger situations. So when I go into the bigger tournaments, I feel more comfortable being in contention so that I could play well there and get more points in that sense.
Yeah. Well, you're leading me into really one thing I wanted to ask you about, which I think will definitely help, listeners that have to, deal with qualifiers. Qualifiers are just, I don't care what it's for, whether it's 18 holes, 36. I mean, hell, you just got through Korn Ferry Tour qualifying, which is multiple weeks, multiple rounds. But, you played the U.S. Open this year. You get through the 36-hole sectional at the Bears Club, which is a incredibly difficult golf course. Forget about who else is in the field. But, there's 36-hole qualifiers all over the country on that Monday. This one has guys like Lucas Glover, who's a former U.S. Open champion, Luke Donald, who's a former number one ranked player in the world, and, a bunch of other professionals and amateurs that everyone has heard of. 36-hole qualifiers, knowing what's at stake, what is a mindset that you've adopted to not just get through them, but to compete at the best level possible so you can succeed? Because I'm guessing 36-hole qualifiers have to be probably one of the most unique and most difficult things in the game of golf.
Yeah, and so coming out of school, I mean, the U.S. Open qualifier is always awesome because there's so many applicants and so few spots. It's really tough because you try to be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna make it. I can make this easily, and have that kind of not arrogant but confident in yourself and making it.
Yeah.
But there's also like the kick in reality, like, okay, there's 12 or 14,000 people, and I think they're taking like 30 spots total. So that's like kind of the kick of reality. So you just kind of go out there and just embrace it. I mean, the 36-hole days I think are so much fun. I got one of my buddies to caddy for me. So I mean, you're just out there really enjoying it, having a chance. It's like I said, if you go into the final round of a tournament with a chance to win, then it's a successful week because you get the juices flowing, right, and you get the blood flowing, and you pretty much just start the day like that. So I always think it's a blast whether you play well or not. It's just fun because you get, as I said, you get the juices flowing. You get a little nerves for the whole day instead of just for a few holes. And then I've also realized, I've heard from other people, and I've learned this over the years too, is that it never takes as low as you think.
Interesting.
So I kind of go into those saying, okay, well, if I can just, I'm not thinking in my head, don't screw up, but I'm thinking, okay, I can just play consistent, hit the fairways, hit the greens, give myself consistent chances, that if I just do that the whole day, the odds are I'm going to make enough putts that I'm going to make it.
So you basically shoot 2 rounds of 70. I mean, exactly what you just said, consistent, steady golf. I mean, 2 rounds of 70. Do you remember what at the break, after the first 70, do you remember did you basically feel like, all right, let's just go do that again?
Yeah, I think we looked, I think I was like on the number after the first round. So we're like, okay, let's go shoot 70 or 69 and we'll get in. So you're trying to think in your head what it's going to take. And as a golfer, you always think that it's going to be lower than it is.
Right.
Just so that okay, if I can get, if it's realistically it's at 4, you're thinking, okay, I need at least 5 or 6 to make it. So that way, if you get there, you're pretty secure.
I definitely saw, there was a nice clip about you getting through at the Bears Club after your 2 rounds, and you get through without a playoff, which is I'm sure you know what playoffs are like. So that's really nice to not have to deal with that. But I did see rather a good amount of exuberance from your caddy, who I guess now is kind of was on your bag at Korn Ferry Tour. So you sound like you were very level headed throughout this whole process. Talk to me about your caddy and how he was that day.
He's very outgoing, to say the least. But and I'm really quiet on the golf course, so okay. I think I kind of calm him down. He kind of gets me out a little bit.
Okay.
So we work really well together. So he always knows where I need to be. Like he keeps an eye on the scores, and we do well together. So once we made that, we were both just so happy because it was tough. So we were playing really, really well the second day, and then with like 3 or 4 holes to go, I think I made like a 6 or 7. So that took a big beating because you're like, okay, I'm around the number, and then I make like a double, I think it was a double. So then we're thinking, oh boy, now we got 3 holes left. We got to grind. So right. I get a good up and down on the next, make it a birdie on the par 5, hole 8, because we started on 10 the second day, and then make like a 4 or 5 footer for par on 9. Going into that, I thought I had to make that to probably force a playoff. I thought I was either going to force a playoff or maybe miss it by 1 or make it by 1. So it was a big putt in my eyes and my mind. So I make that, and I'm calm, like, okay, sweet, I made that. Now let's see where that gets us. Let's see if we have to go do a playoff or whatnot. And I look at him. I said, "How's it looking? Are we in?" He's like, "We're in." I'm like, "For real? Like that's in?" He's like, "No, you're in by like 3." So like when he said that, we're like, "Okay, this is real, and we're going to the U.S. Open." So it was such an amazing feeling to know that you did all the hard work. You're there the whole day. I think it was even raining for a little bit, and to get it done was just the best feeling ever.
Yeah, and I'm looking at your scores on both of those rounds, and it's crazy because they're both 70s, and they're both full of you got a double in there, you got some bogeys, you got a bunch of birdies. I mean, it just had to have been a really interesting day of just, let's get a couple here, then we lose a couple there, then we're back and forth. So yeah, that had to have been incredibly taxing.
Yeah, it wasn't. And Bears Club, they had the course burn out. It was phenomenal. It was so quick and firm. The supers over there did a phenomenal job. They really made it pretty much as tough as they could too. So it was the Bears Club is such a high-end golf course. It's just an honor to be out there, let alone having the chance to qualify for US Open. So whenever you're at Bears Club, you're just thankful to be out there.
Yeah.
So you're kind of just embracing it, saying, okay, this is pretty sweet. We get to play Bears Club for a couple days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the U.S. Open kind of just came with it.
Yeah. Oh, I get to go to Torrey. Sweet. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't give any pro shop credits for winning something like that. No, that's not a. That's.
I guess not.
No. Okay. All right. Well, some tournaments are, some have it, some don't. So you take your caddy to Korn Ferry Tour Q School, as you said. You go play the U.S. Open. Did you? Oh, by the way, did you draw on any experiences from Puerto Rico when you were at the U.S. Open? I'm sure that had to have crossed your mind at some point.
Yeah, it did. It kind of helped to be more comfortable in the situation, saying, okay, I've been here before. I think when you're an up and coming kid and you get that first spot or your first exemption on the tour, you're kind of in all the whole week. So I guess it was kind of good to get the first week jitters, I would say, out in Puerto Rico. So I was super comfortable out at Torrey, which was the main thing I noticed.
Yeah, that had to have been fun, and I'm sure you're going to have other experiences like that. I'm not going to run you through the entire 3 stages you did at Korn Ferry Tour, but I found it interesting. At least I wanted to ask you about just the first and the third. Well, I guess it's the final stage, but the first stage, you do incredibly well at Breakers West. Now, personal information: I hate that golf course. I can't do anything right at that golf course. My buddy has a summer membership there. Dan Eggertson listens to this podcast all the time, and you may.
Oh yeah, Dan's the man. I know Dan pretty well.
See, there you go. He wants me to get out there all the time to play golf with him. I've done it like once or twice. I can barely get out of the parking lot and find the first tee. It's that bad. So that being said, let's just, move my embarrassment to some place else right now and just say, how do you play well or get through on a golf course that doesn't fit your eye or that you don't like? Now, obviously that's not the case with Breakers West for you, but you're going to be playing, you have been playing, but you will be all over the country next year. Different spots, different climates, different grasses, you're going to be playing a lot of different golf courses next year. So that being said, how do you play well at a course that maybe when you show up in that practice room, you're like, man, this isn't my joint?
Yeah. So I think me and my coach, Jeff Leishman, have worked really hard on that and on getting your stock shots and stock, whatever, anything that stocks that can translate easily. So we work a lot with TrackMan. So we have my stock numbers. We know exactly how far the ball is going to go in certain environments. So that way, if I go to elevation or it gets colder, I know, okay, well, the elevation is going to go an extra 8%. So now it's just simple math. A 150 shot's now going, was it 165 or something like that? So that stuff's easily translatable. So then you get there and you work on chipping. Okay, we work on landing spots on chipping. So we know, okay, my stock pitch shot's going to roll out X amount of yards. So a stock pitch that usually goes 6. Now this course, the greens are firmer. So now it's rolling out 9 or 10 yards. So it's getting the first day or two, just to really embrace that and embrace the conditions. I don't do a whole lot of, okay, well, I think the pin might be here. Let me hit a bunch of putts here. Or I think it might be over here. I'm gonna hit some chips over here. I feel like I do a good job at just embracing the conditions and embracing the course as a whole. Because there's so many pin placements and tees they can put and use. You're never going to get it right. So I think the more you just embrace the course itself and how the ball's rolling out and how the greens are rolling or spinning, I think the better you'll play in the long run.
So it kind of sounds to me you're taking your stock numbers, your stock, game, and just trying to see how it's going to react to the environment, as opposed to showing up and looking at the course and saying, okay, how does this fit my eye? You're trying to almost keep blinders on, so to speak?
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Well, I wanted to, as soon as I saw those Breakers West, I'm like, oh, I know exactly how I want to.
Well, it also helps when you've been a member of Breakers West for the past 6 years.
No, I know that. I know you can beat the hell out of that place, but I'm like, that place, well, you know what else? And I feel episode is really becoming South Florida centric, but, I would rather just give you money and say nice playing than to actually go play with you at Mayaku. I'd rather just say, good game, 3-2, good match. What do I owe you? Front back total? Let's just do that. Just rather just do that instead of me getting in the car, because that place, just like Breakers, I want nothing to do with that place.
Yeah, Mayaku's pretty tight too.
Anytime there's like a state mid qualifier, and I look at the list and I'd be like, okay, Mayaku, nope, and just cross that out and just start looking.
Thanks.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah,
nothing to do with that place. I think a lot of people know that the finals of the Korn Ferry Tour was adversely affected by weather. In fact, I can't remember a time when they actually had a complete washout of a day just because of what weather was coming. I don't even think they tried to do anything. What was that, a Saturday I think they canceled? Is that right?
Yeah, the Saturday they moved back.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen or heard of that. How do you even comprehend that or deal with that when most people think of the Korn Ferry Tour and they see it on the Golf Channel, and they see these guys just shooting incredibly low numbers, just dropping 63, 64s. Everyone's able to do that. And then you get to the one time of the year where you're fighting for a job and you're dealt a hand that is what? It's 50 degrees, it's blowing 20, and just like the weather is so bad. How do you handle that? Because that just seems like such a punch in the gut. You grind all year long to get here, and now like it's an open championship. Like, who signed up for that crap?
Yeah, well, that's what I love about it, is that the weather like that affects so many people mentally, that if it's a 150 person field, if the conditions are bad, that pretty much knocks out half of them automatically.
So you want bad conditions?
Yeah, I remember I woke up. We played Friday. I think we finished the round. It was, I think Weather Channel said the feel like temperature was like 37 or 38, and it was pouring rain. So it was almost snowing at that point. And we get out the next day, and I was like excited to go out there on Saturday. I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be super cold. It's gonna be raining all day, and I just came off a good round. Like, once it started raining, I think I was like 4 or 5 under my back nine. So I was like super excited, because those are the conditions where you can move up so much. You go post it even or 1 under, and you're moving way down the leaderboard. So I love those rounds. So we woke up. I was like really kind of upset, not like mad, but like I was. Yeah, I mean, in a way, I was kind of upset we weren't playing, because I was.
You saw
so
an opportunity.
Excited.
You saw the opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Where most people were probably super happy, like, oh, thank God we don't have to go play in that today. I was upset, because I was like, well, I was looking forward to going out there and having a better mindset and enjoying and embracing the environment than everyone else. But again, it's golf, so you always have to adapt. So
yeah, it's kind of crazy when I look at the scores. You shoot a final round 66. You finish T2 at finals, and your 66. Just to show you how much the weather changed, your 66 only moved you up 1 spot. So in ideal weather, everyone was shooting such low scores. That 66, it's almost like you were treading water by shooting 6 under, which is just insane.
Yeah. I know.
But then there's guys, Rosenmuller from Germany shot 63 on the final day and moved up 56 spots, which is insane.
Yeah, well, I think so. I didn't play well the first round. I was like 106th or 108th, and then I forgot what I shot the second round.
67.
Like 3 or 4 under, and I moved from like 106 to 22.
Oh my God.
Just because the conditions were that bad. I shot 60, 66, 67, and you move up 80 odd spots. So you're like, I'm like, okay, I didn't play great today, but I played decent in those conditions, and you move up a bunch. Let's go do that again tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, and that third round is really what sealed it for you. You shoot 63 in the third round, and that
helps a lot.
Oh yeah, yeah. I listen. You're talking to someone that shot 64 one time on a Muni course. I know all about that. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah.
But all right, so you're all set. You're moving to the Korn Ferry Tour for next year. I also just wanted to talk really briefly about your caddy. I know we hit upon that at the U.S. At the U.S. Open qualifier, and now he's going to be with you on the Korn Ferry Tour. A lot of things that we talk about the players and them trying to get a job, them competing, them really putting everything in their life on the line. We don't talk a lot about the caddies. The caddies are doing the exact same thing, and most of the time it's for players that again are trying to find status, whether they've been at it for a while or they're rookies like yourself. I mean, what can you say about your caddy? Let's give him some pub just for saying, hey, I'm going to go take this journey with you. And he's not hitting any of the shots.
Yeah, so I got a funny story about the whole rain delay thing.
We do stories here, so that's perfect.
Yeah, so you'll like this one. So he's still in school. He plays Division I golf at Iona College.
Okay.
So he's getting his master's right now. So he has a class. So I convinced him to skip class all week, come down and caddy for me. And he's like, okay, I can do it. I just have to fly back. I have to fly out Sunday night after the tournament, because Monday I have an in-person final presentation for the class, and if I miss it, I fail.
Oh no.
So I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. Like it's the Korn Ferry Tour. Like no matter what, like the conditions will be fine. They'll get it in. Like that's not gonna be an issue.
They're the U.S. mail through rain or shine. Don't worry, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're not gonna sit us out.
No.
So we get the text Saturday morning, and we're like, oh my God, like we saw the weather coming in, but I'm like, oh, it's the Korn Ferry Tour.
It's
Like
gonna blow
we'll,
through.
we'll play in it, or we'll play 36 Sunday. Like we're not the only ones with flight out Sunday. Like everyone else has to get out here Sunday night. So we get that text. I'm like, holy crap! Like what are we gonna do? I'm like, there's no way you can stay. He's like, no, I can't. Like the syllabus literally says like if you miss it, you fail.
Oh no.
So we're like, oh boy. So we're spending pretty much all day Saturday. Like, okay, who am I gonna get? I got to get someone. I got a bunch of friends around here. Someone has to be able to come up for Monday. So one of my other buddies goes to Florida State, which from Savannah is only like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I'll be there, no problem. I'll come over there tomorrow on Sunday. I'll watch you a little bit. I'll stay Sunday night. We'll caddy for you Monday. We'll get it done. No problem. So like, okay, thank God. Like, I think we didn't get a response from him until like 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Oh.
I ended up putting something on my Instagram story for like 30 minutes or something like that. Like, can anyone come to Savannah for final stage of Korn Ferry Q School? Anyone? So he ends up reaching out. He's like, yeah, I'll be there. So he comes over, so we go out Sunday, and I shoot 63, and I look at Justin. I said, okay, like we got to get you to the airport. He's like, well, hell no, I'm not leaving now.
Wait a minute. So okay.
He's like, so if you would have shot like 1 under, I probably would have left. But you just shot 63. I got to stay now. So he ended up calling our other buddy because we're all mutual friends, the guy coming and everything else. So he calls him. He's like, hey, by the way, like, I know you're almost here, 4 hours into your drive, but like I'm caddying tomorrow. So lucky enough, like our friend group is super supportive. He's like, no man, of course, like I would want you to stay.
Yeah.
Like you got to do this. Like I'm gonna come watch. I want to come watch. I want to support you guys in any way I can, which I'm super thankful for all my friends like that.
See,
so we ended up changing his flight. I spent like an hour at dinner changing his flight to Monday, and then he calls his teacher Sunday night at like 8:00. He's like, yeah, by the way, like, I'm not going to be able to be there tomorrow. So the teacher's on the phone, like, trying to fail him over the phone. And he told her, which he didn't lie. He said it was a job interview, which it is.
Okay.
And the job interview was in Savannah, Georgia, and it got pushed back to Monday.
These are factual statements. These are factual. They are. I'm with you. I love it. I love this story. This is great.
So he ends up staying and he flies back Monday night, and the whole the week after we're like, holy crap! Like I think he ended up finding out like 3 days ago, like is this teacher gonna fail him or not? Like this is a big deal because he's getting his master's. He's gonna be done in 6 months. Like this is a big deal or something. So I was lucky enough for him to care about it enough to stay in that situation, thank God. But he ended up passing, which is all that matters.
That's see, now would have been a better wrinkle to this story is if you would have said that your backup caddy from Florida State then went to Iona and did the presentation for your caddy.
Oh, that would have been a good one.
If everyone was tight and buddies, that's what you would have.
Yeah, fly from FSU to go to Iona real quick. Say your name's Justin and do your presentation.
That would have been the better end of this story. Not that
that would have been the best.
Not that I don't love this. That's okay. So now Justin is your caddy with the going for the Masters, right?
Yeah, so his name's Justin Burkhammer, plays Division I golf at Iona College.
Okay.
So he'll be getting his master's. I think he graduates in May. So
now, have you told him that not a lot of tour caddies need to have master's degrees? Or
I told him that he's so close. He's got to take a little time to off the bag to go do school, but he's a phenomenal golfer. So he's not someone full time that would be able to do this. I don't think. He wants to get his master's. Of course, he's got another semester with a team, and he wants to go do what I'm doing. Go chase pro golf and go make it out on tour. So, yeah, I got a good buddy of mine who I grew up a bunch with ever since I was super young, Sam Thomas, who is down in West Palm too. He's going to be on the bag for the next season, and we're really looking forward to it.
That's going to be a hell of an adventure. I will get you out of here on this one. I love that story. That's so good. You just kind of missed out on the launch of NIL into the collegiate sports landscape. I'm not sure. Obviously, you're talking and friends with a lot of amateurs, and you got a lot of friends that are at Auburn still, playing, and amateur golf just a massive network. But you moved on to the pro ranks. You made your last stars in amateur at the U.S. Open. That's a great place to end your amateur career. You have goals you're trying to accomplish. Obviously, you want to get through Korn Ferry Tour and get yourself to the PGA Tour. But a lot of these kids that I run into, they're talking about, social media presence and, getting some sort of an endorsement deal and all that stuff. Is that something that you're now embracing as a professional? I mean, are you thinking about the business side of Andrew Kozan Incorporated, or are you still kind of focusing just on golf? I'm just curious what maybe your thoughts are on that, and maybe how that, can translate to someone on the amateur side that's thinking of, okay, I got to play golf, but now I also have to be a brand, are those things registering with you?
Yeah, I think it's really hit me the last month or two, because the environment we're playing and working in today is just totally different than it was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Social media just plays such a big role in it. So it's something it's definitely been thought about a bunch, on my mind a bunch, been talking to people in my corner about what I need to be doing. But in the end, we came to the decision that all focus needs to be on golf. If you go out to the golf course for a couple hours, you don't need to spend half an hour of it just filming stuff for your social media page, because
right.
what good is a social media page if you're not playing any good to get status?
There you go.
So I think my agent always said it's like putting the cart before the horse.
Yep.
Which I love the saying. He told me that, and it made a lot of sense. Just if you try and do the social media and push that, then there's no telling what your golf game is going to do. But if you focus solely on your golf game and playing the best you can and competing and trying to win, then the social media stuff's just going to come along with it.
It's a great point, something that I know a lot of people will take away from. I completely forgot that I will give you the last word on this. A former guest of the podcast who actually reached out today just to say hello. I'm sure you know Mr. Grayson Huff very well, a former teammate of yours at Auburn.
Absolutely.
Former guest, awesome guy, shared a lovely steak and lobster tail dinner with him at the Jones Cup, which is just another great story for another time. But actually, I think that's still in his episode. But, he's not here to defend himself, and you could tell any story you want to about Grayson Huff to end this episode. The floor is yours, sir.
Oh, boy. Wow. Oh, gosh. I got to be thinking about this. I think the funny ones are the way he would practice. He would just really embrace like the worst conditions to practice on. I mean, it'd be so cold, and I mean, it'd be like monsooning the whole day. And he would just put on his rain gear and just go putt for like 3 hours. And we're all sitting there like what could he possibly be accomplishing right now? Like, he's gonna just always getting is a cold, like, the ball's just got water on it, so it's not coming off consistently.
They would have suspended play in the conditions that he's grinding.
Yeah, like
on.
He's like putting through puddles, just on the bottom of the range for hours. That's a good one. I mean, there's too many Grayson stories. I don't want to get myself in trouble.
Well, he's a beauty, and I know that he's going to be kicking around that Latin America tour next year. And
absolutely,
man, can you imagine? I mean, obviously you want to be on your tour and you want to get to the next one above that, but can you imagine what it must be like to travel with Grayson Huff for a month through Latin America playing golf?
I can't imagine, man.
I may want to just take a little road trip and just see. I mean, you want to talk about social media content. I mean, that's a gold mine right there, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah, you just gotta stick a GoPro on his head or something like that. see what crazy footage you come along with.
I think I might need to bring him back on the podcast next year just to get some stories from him in Latin America, because I think like I said, I think there's a gold mine there.
Yeah, and another one is he was older, so he was a 6-year this year, but he always looked older too. So I remember.
Oh, he's 38 years old. I've asked.
Yeah. We've been calling him Grandpa the last couple of years.
Love it.
But we were in Hawaii 2 years ago, so it would have been his 5th year. And so it's the team, and it's the head coach and the assistant coach, and we're all at dinner. And this lady goes up to us and says, she sees all the Auburn golf stuff and goes, "Well, are you guys from Auburn?" And we're like, "Yeah, we're the golf team at Auburn." And she's like, "Oh, sweet. So you must be the coach," and points to Grayson.
Yes.
So we're all dying, man. We were laughing so hard, and that's a big story that definitely stuck.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Oh, I knew exactly where you were going with that. Then when you started talking, I'm like, so they put the check down or something like that. Like, here you go,
Yep.
sir. Take care of your kids.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Love it. Love it. Andrew, great stuff. I'm, well worth the wait. Again, we could have done it when you're an amateur, but I think it's just much better.
More
now.
stories now.
More stories now. More stories. This is perfect. So, well, again, congrats on all your success this year. Great transition to the pro ranks. Looks like you got a great 2022 ahead of you. So, enjoy the holidays. Enjoy the break. Take a day off. You can do that, and we'll see you. We'll see you again down the line at the back of the range. I appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
And there you have it. Special thanks to Andrew Kozan for joining me on this episode here at the back of the range. Don't forget, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Every single episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. We'll see you next time here at the back of the range.